This training is going to talk about metric widgets inside of SmartSuite, so if that's of interest, stick around and let's get into it. Let's jump right into metric widgets. We're going to hop into my screen here where I have a brand new dashboard that I've just added to my SmartSuite app. I've called this dashboard Dashboard 2, but as you see, I haven't added anything to it yet. So SmartSuite's going to give me a little prompt that says, hey, create the perfect dashboard, click here to add a widget, or we can click up here to add a widget as well. And a widget is just going to allow us then to visualize our data in a certain way. So the first section here has to do with metrics. We have a comparison metric and we have the progress metric. So let's take these one at a time. The comparison metric, as you see, will show progress over time comparing recent performance against a past time frame. And then compare that to the progress metric. This will allow us to track our progress against a goal with a visual display. So very cool options here. So first we need to make sure that we have some underlying data that's actually going to make sense for one of these widgets or both of them. This shows comparison over time. So we're probably going to need some sort of date type fields in order to make this work. And then our progress metric is going to track against a goal. So let's go ahead and actually just bring both of these in and see how we can start getting to work with them. So here I've now chosen to install my first comparison metric. And the first thing it's asking me is, what app do you want me to look at? So maybe we have things in one of our apps that pertain to some sort of comparison. Maybe I want to see how many sprints did we do last month compared to the month prior, for example. So first we have to tell it what app to look at, which I've chosen sprints. And now we have to say what we want to actually value here. So do we have a quantity of sprints that we're looking at, or is there a total dollar amount in here somewhere that we want to sum up? Something of that nature we can take a look at. Well, in this case, maybe I want to look at completed stories. How many completed stories occurred in 1 month over the next? Well, so far we're looking at a sum of completed stories of 8. Okay, now we can drill in the next layer where we're talking about date to compare. So if I wanted to stop here, I could, and this would just tell me how many completed stories I have, but I want to take it a level deeper. I want to go to compare certain things. So I don't really have a date for these sprints yet in those sprints, so I better pause here and actually just say add this widget. And I want to point out to you that when you go to add a widget, you can always go back in later and make adjustments to the settings of that widget, as I'm going to demonstrate right now. So I've got the widget now saved, but it's not fully baked. So now I want to actually change out and go back to just a different view inside of this particular app. Remember that I'm looking actually in my Sprints app. So let me move into my Sprints, and I want to pick a different view that's going to make more sense for me. Now what I want to add here is a date field so that I can track these different stories over time and see how that information rolls into my particular settings. So here I go. I'm going to pop in and bring in a date for these different things. And let's go ahead and assign a date to them. So I might say that I have 2 of these in the month of November sometime. Let's go ahead and bring in some November dates. And I might say that I have 2 of them in the current month of December. So I'll bring that in as well. All right, once I'm set up with the actual date field, let's now pop back into that dashboard that we were creating, which was in our features application, and I called it Dashboard 2. So now that I'm back in here, let's finish setting up this particular widget. I can go back into my settings, and now I have access to that date field that I just created. So this is allowing me to see the different information over time. So this is outputting a change over last month. The comparison time frame here is going to be last versus one before, or I could switch it to rolling window, in which case we see the data is displayed slightly differently on a 30-day rolling window. So you've got a lot of options in terms of how you bring that information in. Again, we're looking at the number of completed stories, but I might instead look at the number of stories. And that information is now being brought in from that app. It's looking at the different data in there, 30-day rolling period here, and we see that we are up 18 over the last 30 days plus 100%. Whereas if I change it instead to last versus one before, again looking at total stories, I'm up 5 or 100% for that as well. So go ahead and tweak these as you would like for your particular setup, And this is the comparison metric. Once you're done, save those changes and move on. Now let's talk about that other metric. Let's add the widget for the progress metric here. This is excellent for looking at maybe total sales over a period of time and comparing to a goal. Well, maybe in our case, we're going to go back to the sprints application. And again, I'll look at stories here and I'll look at the sum of stories and compare them to a goal of, let's say, 5. So if our goal is 5 stories, we know that we currently have a total of 18 stories. So when I add this widget, we see that we have surpassed our goal quite nicely. If instead I set a different goal, let's say 20, and we weren't quite there yet, the information is going to look like this. 18 out of 20, so taking me 90% of the way there, and I can see that we've got just a little bit left before we reach our final goal. Save the changes you like, and that is the progress metric there. So a few different options in terms of how we can look at metrics for our dashboards. Experiment with these on your own and take them out for a spin, get a feel for how they work, and I will see you in the next training. If you have any questions about what we covered in this training, please ask them below in the comments section of this video. And until then, we'll see you in the next training.